people are entitled to things, but how much weapons do you need? How many weapons? Like, these are destructive. They're not just handguns, they're shotguns, assault rifles, like you said, and they're just so fast at killing people. Like, you just realize how many people they can kill so fast, because, I mean, this only took 3 minutes and 70 shot, 12 dead. It's just, these are weapons of destruction.
Jamie Raw's one of the victims of a shooting in Aurora, Colorado last week, and I'm back with Michael Moore. I mean, it's a familiar theme. I've got to say, a lot of people who've tweeted in, Scott M. on Facebook said, shouldn't Uzi machine gun be included in the Second Amendment to carry or own bear arms? Is this type of gun necessary for self-defense? Then you have the other argument. As I said, laws don't prevent people from committing crime, just like salads don't prevent people getting fat. And somebody else, Fitz152. So can you explain why Washington, D.C. outlaws handguns, yet in 2012 has had a 40% increase in gun-related crime? And you have the same argument about Chicago and the fact they have strict gun control laws there and yet have the worst gun crime in America. Put all these into some kind of perspective for me, Michael.
98% of the guns that are taken off criminals in Washington, D.C. come from other states, not from Washington, D.C. If we had a uniform laws, there'd be less of a problem. But if you are trying to get a gun in Washington, D.C., it's virtually impossible, number one. Number two, New York is a good example of where the gun laws did bring down the gun murders. So I think the mayor of Chicago should probably talk to the mayor of New York and figure out what they did in New York. Yeah. The first part of your question, as Americans, we want our freedom. You know, we want to be able to, if we want a gun, why can't we have a gun? You know, if I want 200 channels on my TV, why can't I have 300? I mean, this is kind of our American mentality. Part of it is, it comes from a good place of freedom, and, you know, I should be able to get this or whatever, I don't know. But really, I would like to ask actually the gun supporters out there, if you believe that the Second Amendment is some absolute right to bear arms, it doesn't say guns, by the way, it says arms, weapons, let's call it weapons, then does that mean that I have the right to own weapons-grade plutonium? And why not? Why not? It's a weapon. Why don't I have the right to own that? Where are you going to draw the line here with this?
Well, this is the point, isn't it? There is no line drawn. I mean, when I asked this pro-gun guy last night, I asked him who would need an assault rifle that could fire 100 bullets in a minute. He doesn't have any answer. Obviously, there is no answer. That's the point. Nobody needs one of those as a civilian. The military need them, and they have them. But why are there not laws to stop disturbed young people who have no mental health record or no criminal record, so they avoid all the normal checks, the basic checks that are in many states, that they can just go in and buy this stuff? Even more terrifyingly, what he did on the internet. Yeah. Being able to buy 6,000 rounds of ammunition at very cheap cost, being able to buy full military standard body armor to stop himself being shot and so on. There's got to be a mechanism that picks up these people, that when they get online in America and they try and buy this stuff, red flags go up. But there isn't. Someone could be doing it now, tomorrow, the next day, and nothing legally can stop them or even pick them up.
That's right. There's nothing to stop the insane from arming themselves to the hilt. And that is going to have to change. But as Mayor Bloomberg said on your show last night, if the assassination of President Kennedy and of Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy, and then of the greatest rock star of all time, John Lennon, and on, and now all the school shootings and everything else, Americans just don't seem to want to get behind doing something about this. And I think it's because, again, you said there's 300 million guns in people's homes. Let me point out that statistic. Most of those guns are in white people's homes. Most of those guns are in the suburbs, not in the cities. All right, this never gets brought out in these facts that are thrown out. Now, why do people in suburbs, why do people who don't live in cities, why do you have a handgun in the house? What is the point of that? Because you're afraid that little freckle-faced Jimmy down the street is going to hurt you someday? I don't think so. So what's the real reason? Who do you think is going to hurt you? Who do you think is going to come into your house?
On this point, a clear example to me of the kind of thing you're talking about is the Trayvon Martin case, where George Zimmerman, if he hadn't been carrying a gun, indisputably, Trayvon Martin would still be alive. It was the fact that he had a gun. Whichever side of the argument you believe, and we don't know all the facts, and it may or may not come out in the court case, but the bottom line is, if the gun hadn't physically been on George Zimmerman, then Trayvon Martin couldn't have been shot. George Zimmerman was perfectly legally entitled to carry this firearm around. That firearm led to Trayvon Martin being shot.
Can I say something about that, about the Trayvon Martin thing? Let me put it this way. Let's say George Zimmerman's right when he says that Trayvon Martin was trying to kill him, all right? But it was George Zimmerman who was told by the police to quit stalking this boy. And he was the one who was committing the infraction against the law by disobeying the police and going after Trayvon Martin. Doesn't Trayvon Martin actually have the right to kill George Zimmerman if George Zimmerman is stalking him and the police have told him not to stalk him?
There is an irony that it's George Zimmerman using Florida's Stand Your Ground defense, when in fact, as you say, you could equally argue that Trayvon Martin may well have been doing the same thing. He might have been defending himself against somebody who he saw was armed and was following him in the darkness and didn't know what this guy was up to. I mean, you know, we don't know the facts. It's important to say, but you know, it is ironic.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because George Zimmerman cannot claim that as a defense. He was trying to kill me. Yes, he might have been trying to hurt you because you were stalking him. You were breaking the law.
I've got a question for you, actually, which we have a video question from Dr. Amador, who came on last night. He's a schizophrenia expert, and he wanted to pose this to you.
I'd really like to see you go after state commissioners of mental health and the private healthcare industry, because what's happening is, in this case, I think we're going to find, I can't tell for certain, that this young man probably has serious mental illness. Certainly Jared Loughner, other people who have committed crimes just like this, have serious mental illness that went untreated because we're not funding mental health care. When mental health care cuts occur, violent crimes like this and mass shootings like this occur.
I mean, it's very hard to imagine that somebody of 24 years old with the kind of background this kid had is not mentally ill, because why else would he be doing something like this? Either he's just the epitome of pure evil, or he is psychologically disturbed in some way, as was Jared Loughner and other killers involved in these massacres. What do we do? I mean, do you agree with what the doctor said there? Is it time that America just woke up and dealt properly with mental health generally?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we never discuss this when we're talking about universal health care or whatever. Rarely, at least, I mean, those who are the politicians never discuss it. It certainly isn't covered very much by private insurance. This is a huge problem. It is covered in other places where it's much less expensive in other countries to get this sort of help. So yes, on an individual level, we need to do this. But on a mass level, as a culture, as an American society, we have to also correct our sort of collective mental problem where we think violence is going to solve our problems or violence is going to make us safe. If we just build more weapons, we're going to be okay. You know, it's just not going to work that way.
Let's take a final break, Michael. I want to come back and try and get to some solutions. What you think could actually practically be done to deal with the gun issue in America right now?